Hey y'all, welcome back to Sonic Boogie Reviews Episode 2, and the fact that you came back for another go clearly means we're not doing too bad. Obviously change of scenery. It's too lazy to set up my phone, and the fact is obviously Greg's not doing this review with me because his fiance put him under house arrest. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, I did this on the spur of the moment just because I did not want to wait to do this review because A, the memories are fresh in my head, and B, this movie was fantastic. I'm talking about Snowpiercer. Um, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, but oh my god, it combines everything of futuristic science fiction, action, suspense, little bit of drama here and there, but it's like you combine the best elements of Philip Dick's novels, like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. You have a little bits of 1984. You even have some Half-Life 2 era kind of things from the Combine era, I guess you could say. So it's all jumbled together in this very, very dark, post-apocalyptic future. Um, well, just to give the background of the plot, you have scientists supposedly found a way to reverse the effects of global warming, but that really kind of went sideways and things went pear-shaped and created the second ice age of the world. So, sorry, Al Gore, you probably should have watched this movie before you made your preferences about the future of global warming. Anyway, so I guess to combat this twisted genius Wilford, who could only be described almost as a Howard Hughes of the technology world, creates this 10, 11, 12 car train. They say, if they allude to it only being 10 cars or so, but I'm not really sure exactly. So basically becomes this biodome bullet train hurtling at breakneck paces around the world. Self-propelled is what they're saying, implying it to be, so there's no real need for fossil fuels or electricity, so Elon Musk can basically kiss his ass goodbye in this future. So, but this little diverse bullet train is hurtling the earth at breakneck speeds. Each car has a different theme to it. So you have a dance party, like a disco almost in one car. You have an aquarium. You have a sushi bar. You have all these little different aspects going into this world on wheels. But while everything may seem a little bit happy, if you've read any book by Ursula Le Guin, you know there's a dark secret going on back there, because in the rear of the train, you have what can only be described as the bad part of the bad part of the bad part of the bad part of downtown D.C., mixed with a prison. Squalid conditions, people are dirty, missing limbs. It's hideous, and it's almost painful on the eyes to see. But we'll get to that part later on. So you have this all-star cast of actors and actresses. You have Chris Evans, you have Octavia Spencer, you have John Hurt, you have Ed Harris, and of course you have my favorite sociopath, Tilda Swinton. If you've seen any movies of hers, you know you're in for a treat when she makes an appearance, because it's Tilda Swinton playing a Tilda Swinton character. When I saw her on the credits, I had a complete nerd squee. I will be honest with you, because every movie I've seen with her in it just goes to this dark, fantastic places. And she's basically heading up the Gestapo idea of basically the Fourth Reich on this train, because that's how they treat these people in the rear of it. I mean, it is brutal. They torture, they maim. It's going to be so hard not to give away too many plot points, but it's a fantastic, dark, gritty film. It almost reminds me, the more I think about it, one of my buddies back home, Hardcop311, you might know him for his Let's Plays or old days of Good Beer, Bad Beer on YouTube many, many years ago. He wrote a book that almost reminds me of this movie. So personally, he needs to get on the horn with the Weinsteins and throw down, because I saw so many elements comparing his stories, novella, and this movie. So, without giving away too many spoilers or plot points, you have these people in the rear of the train, like I'm saying, and they're being, every so often, Tilda and the Fourth Reich will show up with these protein bars that almost look like overly congealed cranberry sauce mixed with Jell-O and whatnot, and we'll get to that later on, but I saw that right out of the gate. I'm thinking, oh boy, Soylent Purple. And for one thing, I didn't like cranberry sauce or Jell-O to begin with as a child, and this just threw it home for me. This was just the grand slam saying, nope, I'm not eating that ever. Sorry, thanks for playing. But of course you have these people living in these conditions, and they're basically fighting and running over each other to get at these foul little things. So if one person steps out of line, one person, Tilda throws the gauntlet down and tortures the poor bugger. I felt, oh my. And of course they're using all the natural elements for that torture device. So rather than use guns or knives or things like that, no. There's one scene where a guy steps out of line, they strip his sleeve off, open a porthole to the outside, whereas obviously the second ice age is going on in full force, and shove his arm out the window. So of course he's freezing his arm off, and the whole time Tilda's giving this little shtick about maintaining order and balance and giving homage to Wilford, the engineer, or at this point I was calling him Captain MacGuffin, because at this point, this early in the film, I thought he was probably dead or something to that degree, because I don't know these things. Anyway, so that's done. They pull him back in, and his arm is this gigantic sheet of ice. Like they just dipped his arm in a vat of liquid nitrogen, and then they take a hammer of some blunt object, whack his arm a couple of times, and the thing just shatters. That's 101 conditions for living in the rear of the train. So, long story short, the Resistance, led by Chris Evans and Octavia Spencer and a few other characters, their names are escaping me at the moment, come up with an idea to break out of the rear and get to the front to confront Wilford. Now, each car is basically its self-contained area, so the rear of the train can't get passed out of that one particular car that they're in. They're stuck there. So as soon as the Gestapo finishes up giving them their food, they bail and lock the doors behind them. So it's not like they can just knock on the door and say, hey, I want to go up to the front. So the next time the food is delivered, they gamble a bluff, and it works. So they actually break out of the rear and make their way to the front of the car to confront Wilford. But once again, each car, oh my god, it's, I'm giddy, I'm sorry. It was just, I haven't liked a movie this much since I saw Inception, and that was, I guess, 2010 maybe, 2009. Nothing really new has come to me like this. There's one scene where the Gestapo, I know I keep calling them that, because that's pretty much what they are. They hire a band of axe assassins, and there's one scene where they're getting into an axe fight. You have the resistance of these grizzled, unarmed people, led by, Captain America, going up against these axe murderers, and halfway through the fight, the train approaches this bridge, which I guess shows that they've been around the world 1 year. So they literally stop in mid-fight, like the ball was dropping, shake hands, hug, congratulate each other on staying alive for another year, and then go back to fighting. It almost reminds me of something out of Kung Fu Hustle, because it almost got a little bit zany there, like something almost Godfrey Ho would do, combining action and a little bit of unintentional comedy before going back into it. And then shortly thereafter, they go into a tunnel on this train, so the Axe assassins put on night vision goggles like they're friggin' Sam Fisher of Splinter Cell and almost proceed to destroy all of them. But God bless the Resistance, they wax the floor with them. And they continue on. Later on, of course, word starts getting out that you have this Resistance heading to the front of the train. They don't really sure what's going to happen when you get to the front, because the whole concept was they just want to confront Wilford over this whole thing. But things get dark and strange and weird to the point that there's this one assassin who I'm pretty sure is missing nerve endings because of all the pain they put him through. Either he's just really determined to kill Chris Evans, or he just doesn't feel pain, because this guy was a monster. But every fight, every duke they get into, I just couldn't wait for the little bastard to get dropped to the ground, because he just stirred my collar like it was nobody's business. Like he just refused to die. Actually, Gerard Butler would have been perfect with that, because I really would have been cheering him on to the bitter end, saying, "Die, you little bastard." But they keep going through. I think probably what turned my stomach the worst out of every little thing is they get to this area where they're making the protein bars. And you can probably guess that they're not made out of all essential vitamins and minerals. No, they're made up of ground up bugs and melted down, liquefied, and solidified. So let that be the last thing you think about before you eat dinner tonight. I'm sorry. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. But they progress. Things happen. Probably the creepiest moment that I saw, not just the bugs, they get to this little Pleasantville classroom, which is straight up like Hitler Youth. I know I keep going back to these World War II themes, but this was Stockholm Syndrome at its finest. Throughout the movie, they abduct children from the rear of the train for what they call doctor's checkups, when for fact they take them to this classroom and basically brainwash them into believing this whole Wilford is basically the second coming of Christ to lead these people to safety. And the teacher, either she injected Botox into her face, or she just straight up is just that freaky, because things get freaking weird during the course of that time. But everything just blends together. The plot, the characters. I don't want to give away too much information, because I think if you have a taste for sci-fi or action or little less than wholesome fun, this would be a great movie to see. I mean, I got this completely sight unseen just because some friends recommended it, and we had the same tastes. So I got this on a whim, and worth every penny. The climax definitely has some twists to it. You will not believe some of the stuff that happens towards it. Well, maybe you will to some degree, but it does not go down the way I anticipated. There were definitely a couple of shocking twists towards the end of the flick, but it ends... I almost call the ending like Cormac McCarthy. If you've read any of his books or even seen the movie The Road with Viggo Mortensen in it, a lot of Cormac McCarthy's books are so dark and twisted, but the end, there's this modicum of hope, like you think maybe we aren't destined to die completely and become extinct. That movie ends on a very Cormac McCarthy-ish note. Definitely a cliffhanger, but not the kind of, I guess, room for a sequel. If there is a sequel to this movie, then I will probably crawl into a corner and weep. But once again, if this is the sort of thing you would like, if you like a gritty Blade Runner, slightly thriller, little Constantine, little post-apocalyptic stuff, all these little bits of sci-fi and action and suspense roped together in the darkest corner of the universe, but still on Earth without it being all futuristic like Gattaca and whatnot, I would recommend this wholeheartedly. Um, I think it's fantastic. I would see it again in a heartbeat. So yeah, so that's Snowpiercer in a nutshell without going too giddy, or maybe I did. Keep your eyes peeled. Greg and I have another review coming up in a few days, so that'll show pretty soon. So until then, hope you guys liked it. I'm going to keep tweaking our repertoire, but until then, y'all have a good night. Peace.